Revealed. The life-changing decision to sell my home to my sister, but there's an incredible twist. Jake stood on the porch of his family home, the sun setting behind the faded wooden fence, casting long shadows that felt like a weight on his chest. He never thought he'd seriously consider selling this place, the landscape of his childhood filled with echoes of laughter and the smell of barbecue on summer nights. Now, everything felt like it was slipping away. Losing his job at the garage had knocked the wind out of him. Bills piled up like fresh snow, suffocating him under their weight. The possibility of losing the home where they had celebrated so many Sunday dinners haunted him. It was a chapter he couldn't bear to close, one he never imagined he'd be forced to rewrite. As the world felt darker, a familiar yet distant face appeared. Mary, his sister. She had just returned from overseas, where she had worn the uniform with pride while he toiled away in grease-stained overalls. Years had gone by since they last spoke, years filled with missed birthdays and silent holidays. Her presence sparked a flicker of hope amidst his turmoil, like a breather taken in the midst of a panic attack. Could they mend the broken pieces of their past? Could this home, their childhood sanctuary, become a new foundation for healing? Before Jake knew it, his decision began to crystallize. Selling the family home to Mary felt like breathing life into their strained relationship. It was a selfless act, an olive branch extended despite the prickly thorns from the past. Family comes first, he kept telling himself as he calculated the transaction, one that felt as if it could either save or shatter their shared history. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As Jake navigated the paperwork, the community watched closely. The neighbors had always been more than just faces. They were family, the men grilling on the weekends, the women gossiping over coffee, the children running wild in yards. They rallied behind him, embodying what loyalty truly meant. Mary's return had everyone cheering, yet Jake could feel the tension brewing just beneath the surface. When Mary tentatively let slip the secrets of her homecoming, how her ties to the development plans could uproot their entire neighborhood, Jake's heart sank. All those whispers of modernity felt like a dagger aimed at the heart of their shared values. Anger, betrayal, and confusion bubbled up inside him. Had he just sacrificed everything for someone who was part of the problem? Just when the weight of despair seemed unbearable, kindness flooded in unexpectedly from their neighbors. Food was dropped off, offers for help poured in. Jake's perspective shifted, igniting a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, community and family loyalty could coexist. As he faced Mary one stormy afternoon, emotions ran high. Frustration spilled over in a loud, raw confrontation. Old wounds gaped open like fresh scars. In that moment, as rain dripped from the eaves, Jake stood at the crossroads of love and loyalty. The legacy of their family loomed large. Sacrifice can stem from love, but how much hurt can one heart take? Behind his back, rumors swirling, he wondered if unity could truly be forged in shared sacrifices, or if this moment would be the brick wall that finally broke them apart for good. The storm raged on, drumming against the roof, mirroring the chaos in Jake's heart. Every raindrop felt like a reminder of the countless arguments, long silences, and the distance that had shaped their relationship. He clenched his fists, trying to suppress the whirlpool of emotions ready to erupt. Mary, standing just a few feet away, looked equally lost, her frustration evident as she wiped the rain off her face. Jake, you have to understand, this is about growth, about progress. Her voice, once a comforting song in his past, now struck a jarring note. Growth? You mean tearing apart everything we once loved? What about our memories? He shot back, each word laced with pain. You left, you chose to walk away, and now you want to change everything into something unrecognizable. Mary's eyes hardened, biking with an intensity he hadn't seen since she came back. Do you think I like this? I hate this development plan, but I have to think of our future. We can't stay in the past forever, Jake. The truth hung heavy between them. Mary had always been the dreamer, pushing for bigger, better things, while Jake was the steady hand that held on to tradition. Now, those roles felt like anchors dragging each other into different depths. As the downpour softened to a drizzle, the rawness of their conflict hung thick in the air. A part of Jake wanted to reach for her, comfort her, but the unresolved anger held him hostage. "What if I can't move on?" he whispered, the vulnerability slipping through his cracks. "This house, it's all that's left of Mom and Dad. It's all I have." Mary stepped closer, her gaze softening. "And it can still be. But we can't let our past define our future. What if we change it together? This could be our chance, our fresh start." The thought rattled through him, like thunder rumbling from afar. Together? It felt foreign, almost impossible. "Yes," she pleaded, an ember in her eyes. "If we're going to do this, we have to do it as a family. I need you, Jake, not just as a brother trying to hold on, but as a partner willing to take a leap." The words crashed against his walls. "But what does that even look like? I don't want to lose the essence of this place." "And you won't," she assured him, voice steady. "But we can't freeze in time. Let's honor our parents by looking ahead." It wasn't just the drizzle that had fogged the air. It was the uncertain future standing before them, a mixture of hope and dread. They could either step forward together or let the bitterness tear them apart. The front door creaked open, and their neighbor Betty poked her head out, curiously cautious yet concerned. "Everything okay?" she asked, her warmth spilling over. "Yeah, we're good." Jake forcibly smiled, but the tremor in his voice gave him away. Betty glanced between them, wise eyes recognizing the storm they faced. "Just remember, sometimes unity blooms from the darkest moments. Don't fear what could be if you hold on to each other." As she retreated, her words thudded in his chest. Could they really weather this storm together? Jake looked at Mary, watching her struggle between hope and regret. For the first time, he felt a hum of possibility vibrating beneath the uncertainty. Maybe we can start rebuilding." But before he could say more, a sudden crash of lightning illuminating the sky interrupted them, a premonition that things were about to get even more complicated. The tremor in the air hinted that change was coming, whether they were ready or not. What awaited them on the other side of healing? Would their bond survive the tempest? The air buzzed with tension, the storm outside taking a pause, as if even nature held its breath, waiting for the next move. Jake stared at Mary, the words he'd been desperate to voice swirling in his mind. They were all jumbled, full of fear and yearning. He was standing on the edge of a precipice, teetering between holding on to the past and stepping into a future that felt strange and uncharted. "Do you really think we can turn this around?" he finally asked, his voice a mere whisper, almost swallowed by the patter of droplets lingering on the roof. Mary regarded him with a mix of hope and conviction. "I believe we can, but it starts with a choice." "A choice?" Jake echoed, the word tasting foreign on his tongue. "Yeah." She took a small step towards him, her vulnerability shining through. "A choice to find a way to blend our past with a future we can both embrace. I want to bring new memories here, ones we create together. Wouldn't that honor Mom and Dad?" The mention of their parents grounded him, nudging at the tender, raw places buried beneath his anger. He pictured his mother laughing in the kitchen, their father grumbling about the lawn being too long. These walls held everything he loved, yet now those memories felt like chains. And what if we fail? The doubt slipped out, a shiver of honesty breaking through the facade he'd so carefully constructed. Mary touched his arm lightly, the same way she had when they were kids, when everything felt safe and secure. "What if we don't? What if this is the moment where we turn all our pain into something beautiful?" Jake sighed, his heart warring with his head. It just feels insane. 1 minute you're talking about demolishing everything, and then it's about blending. Mary shrugged, a small smile playing on her lips. What's life without a little insanity? Besides, isn't life about evolving, about creating something that holds even more meaning? The logic of her words cut deeper than he'd anticipated. She was right. They couldn't let grief tether them to stagnation, even if it felt easier to cling to what was familiar. It won't be easy, he warned, as fear wrestled with acceptance. I don't expect it to be, but I also think it's worth fighting for. I want us to embrace change, together. His heart trembled, caught between nostalgia and a flicker of hope. Slowly, Jake began to nod, an acknowledgement of the path ahead. Okay, he said at last, let's figure this out, but we need to be honest about everything. Her eyes lit up, a fire stoked in the depths of their shared history. Agreed. Just as they found a moment of fragile agreement, the lights flickered ominously, casting shadows that danced across the room. A heavy crack split the air again, louder than before, sending both of them stumbling back. And then, silence. A sense of foreboding filled the space. Was it just the storm, or was the storm inside them, that unsettled energy of change, shifting too? Jake suddenly felt the weight of both decisions and doubts crashing down upon him, much like the rain that pressed heavily against the window. That can't be good, he muttered, anxiety tightening around his chest. Mary peered out the window, then turned back to him. Jake, what if we're not just talking about rebuilding this house? What if this storm is only the beginning of something much bigger? He clenched his fists, feeling a rush of adrenaline mixed with fear. What do you mean? But before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from the back of the house, a sound resembling a breaking tree limb. His heart raced. What had they awakened? In that moment, Jake realized they were standing on a threshold, not just for their home, but for their lives. Together, they had to confront not only the storm outside, but whatever lay behind them. He took a deep breath, steadied himself. Let's see what we're really up against. The next chapter loomed before them, filled with uncertainty and the haunting question, what awaited them on the other side of this changing storm? Jake's heart raced as he moved toward the source of the crash, his feet heavy with the weight of dread. Mary followed closely, her presence both comforting and unsettling. The air was thick with anticipation, each step echoing in the silence that enveloped them like a shroud. What if it's just the wind? She whispered, but her voice trembled, betraying her fear. Yeah, right, he replied, forcing a laugh that felt flat. Like the wind has a vendetta against us? As they stepped through the doorway leading to the back of the house, Jake could feel an unease creeping up his spine. The once familiar space now seemed foreign, filled with shadows and echoes of the past. The light from the stormy sky filtered in through the cracked window, illuminating the remains of what had once been their family's haven. Jake scanned the room, books stacked haphazardly, old furniture draped in dust, memories weighing down every surface. Something deep within him twisted painfully, affirming that change was inevitable. Over here, Mary shouted, pointing towards the disheveled stack of chairs. It looked like something had fallen amidst them, disrupting the careful arrangement that had stood for years. They approached cautiously, the floor creaking beneath their steps. Jake squinted through the dim light. What is that? He leaned forward, brushing away the dust from what appeared to be a large, worn box. Dragging it into the light, they both froze. The box was heavy, adorned with their parents' initials engraved in the corner. Memories flooded back. He remembered evenings spent by the fireplace while his parents shared stories, laughter spilling out like uncontainable joy. Was this box part of that past? A quiet urgency filled Mary's voice. Open it. With shaking hands, he lifted the lid, the whine of old hinges cutting through the stillness. Inside lay a collection of faded photographs, letters bound with twine, and a small, intricately carved wooden box. "What is all this?" Jake muttered, confused by the range of emotions swirling within him. "I think we need to look at them, together," Mary said softly, almost reverently. She pulled the first stack of photographs from the box, their edges worn, the faces captured seeming to come alive under their scrutiny. Each image was a window into their family history, encapsulating moments of love, laughter, and lessons learned. As they sifted through the pile, a photograph caught Jake's eye. It was of their parents at a cozy picnic, smiles wide, arms wrapped around each other. They looked so happy, so in love. A warmth flooded him, but it was soon eclipsed by that gnawing sadness, the lust that had driven them apart in the first place. "Why don't we honor them by preserving this?" Mary suggested, holding up the box filled with dreams and memories. "We can turn it into something meaningful, something we both believe in." "Yes, but what does that mean for us?" Jake's voice trembled slightly, the urgency of their earlier confrontation creeping back in. "How do we move forward when everything feels tied to the past?" Mary's gaze softened, understanding reflected in her eyes. "We decide what this will mean, together. It's more than just a house. It's a testament to who we are and who we want to become." Jake took a deep breath, grappling with the notion that their parents' legacy could guide them. The words hung in the air, rich with potential. Could this box really be the beginning of something new? Just as he opened his mouth to respond, another violent crack of thunder shook the house, followed by the lights flickering. They exchanged a glance, the gravity of their situation crashing around them. "What if we find something we didn't expect?" Jake murmured, half hopeful, half apprehensive. Mary took a step closer, the determination flickering in her eyes. "Whatever that is, we face it together. We can't run from our past, but we can choose to write a new future." As they stood around the box, the storm raging outside was a backdrop to their unfolding story. Jake felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. Was it possible to rebuild not just the house, but their fractured bond? But before he could delve deeper into his thoughts, a sharp creak from above sent adrenaline rushing through him again. It echoed like a warning, and he could only wonder if they were truly ready for what awaited them next, all the revelations and decisions that were bound to emerge. With a newfound resolve, Jake looked back at Mary. "What do you think could be up there, waiting for us?" Mary's face hardened with determination. "There's only one way to find out." And with that, they both realized that, together, they were not just facing a storm, but an unfolding journey of discovery. What awaited them beyond the roar of thunder and shadows of the past? They stood there, the air thick with tension, staring at the staircase that loomed in front of them like a challenge. Each wooden step creaked under the weight of their hesitation, an ominous reminder of what lay ahead. Jake took a step forward, a surge of determination fueling him, but his heart pounded like a drum. "Let's do this," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Mary nodded, but her eyes shimmered with a mix of fear and resolve. They started their ascent, the storm outside echoing the storm brewing within them. The staircase wound upward, darkness clinging tightly to the walls. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, amplifying the thrill and trepidation flooding Jake's senses. The gusts of wind rattled the old house, a reminder of the chaos that surrounded them, not just outside, but within their lives. As they reached the landing, a thick silence descended, each breath trembling in the air. Jake squinted into the dark hallway, his eyes adjusting. Something flickered in the faint light, just outside their reach. A door stood ajar at the end, as if inviting them to discover what secrets lay within. "What do you think is in there?" Mary asked, her voice barely breaking the quiet. "Whatever." "It is. I think it's linked to everything we've just uncovered," Jake replied, curiosity intertwined with anxiety in his chest. "Maybe this is where the story continues?" They approached the door cautiously. With a gentle push, it creaked open, revealing a small, dusty room. Copious shadows danced along the walls, and a daunting silence enveloped them. Old furniture was draped in sheets, like ghosts waiting to be freed. "Look," Mary pointed, towards an old desk in the corner, where papers lay scattered, yellowed with age. Jake felt a knot in his stomach. It felt more like an archaeological dig than a simple exploration. As they sifted through the papers, a letter caught Jake's eye. The handwriting was familiar, and as he read the first few lines, a chill ran down his spine. It was a letter from their mother, written just before they lost her. He felt Mary lean in closer, reading over his shoulder, both of them suspended in disbelief. I didn't know she had written this," Mary whispered, tears glistening in her eyes as she processed the words. It spoke of hopes for their future, the dreams she had for them when they were older. "What does it say?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper, dread pooling in the pit of his stomach. With shaking hands, Mary finished reading aloud. "I believe in you both. Whatever life brings, you will overcome. Together, you can find happiness again. Trust in each other." Her voice choked, hung in the air like a poignant reminder of everything they had lost and had yet to reclaim. Jake fought against the swell of grief. She believed in us. It's more than just memories. It's a call to action. Emotions surged, both a healing balm and a weight pressing down on their shoulders. Would facing this truth bring them closer or reveal even deeper rifts? Suddenly, a loud crash came from downstairs, jolting them both. The storm outside was fierce, rattling the windows like a menacing threat. They exchanged alarmed glances, fear taking root. "What was that?" Mary gasped. "I don't know, but we can't ignore it." Jake's heart raced, every instinct telling him to run toward the sound, but a part of him hesitated, lured by the gravity of the letter they had just read. "Maybe it's just the storm," she said weakly, but even as she spoke, doubt crept in. "No, we have to find out what's happening," Jake insisted, his voice steadying. He felt the rush of adrenaline. This was another turning point. They could unravel more of their past, but in doing so, might they uncover larger truths and even darker shadows? With a deep breath, they exchanged a firm nod, united in their resolve. Together, they both whispered. As they turned to descend the stairs, they knew change was upon them, whether they welcomed it or fought against it. What lay ahead felt uncertain, but one truth burned brightly. They wouldn't face it alone. Stepping cautiously down, every creep of the floorboards echoed the uncertainty in their hearts. What did the storm conceal, and would they emerge from it changed, or would they be forced to confront even greater revelations? As they neared the bottom of the stairs, Jake couldn't shake a growing sense of urgency. "Mary," he said suddenly, halting in his tracks, "what if this isn't just about the house anymore?" Her brow furrowed, the question dangling in the air heavy with unspoken meaning. "What do you mean?" she asked cautiously, fear etching lines on her face. Jake took a steadying breath, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead. "What if we learn more than just about our family? What if we learn about us?" With the next crash of thunder, they both knew they were standing on the brink of something monumental. Would they unveil truths that could bind them together, or choices that might tear them apart forever? Jake and Mary descended the final steps, the wooden boards creaking under the weight of their footsteps. The crash that echoed from downstairs still hung in the air like a dark cloud, mingling with the thunder that rumbled ominously outside. Upon reaching the ground, they exchanged one last look, determination solidifying in their gazes, and moved forward. The old living room that greeted them was bathed in shadows. Dust danced in the few beams of light that penetrated through the grimy windows. The storm rattled against the panes, adding an unsettling rhythm to the unsettling atmosphere. Just as they stepped further into the room, a howl of wind sent the front door slamming shut behind them, echoing through the emptiness. "Did you hear that?" Mary whispered, her body tensing. "Yeah," Jake replied, trying to sound braver than he felt. "But we can't back down now." With a hesitant step, he led the way to the kitchen, where the light was dimmer, but the air felt charged. They approached the door that led to the basement, now clad in heavy shadows. That door had always frightened Jake as a kid, but tonight it felt like a gateway to answers. Dark ones, perhaps, but answers nonetheless. "Are you ready for this?" Mary asked, her voice shaking slightly. "Not really," Jake admitted, "but we've come this far. We can't turn back now." He reached for the door handle, but paused as a thought hit him. What if whatever's down there has nothing to do with us? What if it's dangerous? "Then we face it together," Mary said. Her confidence was like a beacon. "Mom believed in us. This is for her." Taking a deep breath, Jake nodded and pushed open the door. It creaked open reluctantly, revealing a staircase spiraling down into darkness. The air felt different, thicker and colder. The two of them began to descend slowly, each step awakening a flood of memories, ghosts from their childhood that both haunted and inspired them. With each step, they shared stories of happier times, sliding down the banister, baking cookies with their mother, laughter that seemed distant now. They reached the bottom, and a chill seared through Jake as he scanned the basement. Crates, boxes, and dusty furniture were scattered haphazardly, an obstacle course of the past. There, in the corner, lay a large trunk, its latch rusted and worn. "Do you think we should look inside?" Mary asked, her eyes wide with both excitement and trepidation. "What if it's just junk?" Jake said, but he found himself drawn to it anyway. "Or what if it holds something we need?" Mary crowded close, and they both knelt before the trunk. With one swift motion, Jake pried it open, the lid groaning in protest. Inside was a pile of old photographs and travel journals, a life captured in moments. One photo, in particular, caught Jake's eye, a picture of their family together at the beach, their mother radiating happiness, and them as carefree kids splashing in the waves. But beneath that, a document caught his attention. "Mary, look at this," he said, pulling it out carefully. As he read the header, his heart sank. It was a deed to the house, but it was dated a year before their mother passed away. Their eyes met, an unspoken realization dawning on them. "Why would she keep this?" Mary asked slowly, dread creeping into her voice. What was she hiding from us? Just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the basement, and Jake felt a shiver run down his spine. There was something about that document, something that felt wrong and twisted, like part of a puzzle they had never intended to solve. "Mary, what if her past decisions could affect us more than we thought?" Jake feared. What happened to Mom wasn't just tragic. It may have tied her to this place in ways we can't even imagine. Their world shifted again, tilting slowly toward uncertainty. With every heartbeat, the weight of the house grew heavier, and with that, the question loomed larger. Had their mother been trying to protect them from something? Or was she part of something they didn't yet know about? As they stood there, the storm outside howled deafeningly, drowning out their thoughts as fear morphed into determination. They could unravel more of their family's history, but would it lead them to comfort or further hurt? Driven by urgency, Jake looked back at Mary and nodded. We need to find out what she was protecting us from. With a flick of courage ignited, they plunged further into the mystery that awaited, unaware of the revelations looming just beyond their grasp. What other secrets lay just under the surface, awaiting discovery? The tension in the basement was palpable, the shadows closing in, as Jake and Mary clutched the deed, their minds racing. "What do you think it means?" Mary's voice was barely above a whisper, her wide eyes reflecting the flash of lightning that lit the room for a brief moment. "I don't know," Jake replied, feeling his heart thump hard against his ribcage. "But it has to connect to Mom. Why else would she keep this hidden?" As they shuffled through the trunk, surrounding objects began to feel like more than just relics of their childhood. In a far corner, Jake spotted a small framed photo lying face down. He reached for it, flipping it over, to reveal their mother, younger and vibrant, arms wrapped around a man Jake barely recognized. A twinge of unease settled in his stomach. Who's that? Mary leaned in closer, squinting at the picture. I think it's her brother, Uncle Liam? Jake stammered, recalling the name from distant memories. But I thought he disappeared before we were born. Disappeared? Or was he put away? Mary mused, her voice tinged with intrigue. The stories Mom told were always vague. Maybe there's more. Maybe she was protecting us from this part of our family. Jake's mind reeled as he held the photograph like a fragile relic. What does this mean for us? For everything we thought we knew? Before Mary could respond, a loud crash echoed from somewhere deeper within the basement, freezing them in place. Their eyes darted around, spooked by the sudden sound. Was something or someone down here with them? The storm continued to rage outside, but it felt like the building held its breath, anticipating their next move. Should we check it out? Mary asked, trying to sound braver than she felt. It sounded like it came from over there, Jake said, gesturing to a shadowy corner hidden behind a tall shelf. We can't just stay here. Hand in hand, they approached the corner, the pulse of fear quickening their steps. As they neared the shelf, Jake caught sight of something, a faint glimmer of light reflecting off a metallic surface. With shaky breaths, they pushed aside some dusty boxes to find a small, ornate lockbox. It was secured tightly, and yet it emanated an energy that felt oddly familiar. There's something about this, Jake murmured, feeling drawn to it. What if it holds the answers we're looking for? Mary knelt beside him, biting her lip as she examined the lock. But how do we open it? We don't have a key. Jake's fingers brushed against the lock's intricate design, and suddenly a thought struck him. The photo. Maybe there's a connection, something we don't see yet. With renewed determination, they carefully placed the photograph back into the trunk and rummaged through more of the items. Time ticked away as they searched, tension mounting with every heartbeat. Then Mary gasped, holding up a small silver key attached to a string. Jake, look at this. He took the key from her, their eyes wide with the possibility. Do you think it could fit? Without hesitation, they returned to the lockbox. Jake inserted the key, his heart racing as he turned it slowly. The mechanism clicked, and the lid popped open. Inside lay a collection of old letters, neatly folded, yellowed with age, and tied with a piece of ribbon. Faded ribbon. These might be from Uncle Liam, Mary breathed, excitement mixed with apprehension filling the air. As they untied the ribbon and began to read, they realized the letters told a story, a fierce family feud, secrets that intertwined their mother's life with tragedies they had only heard in whispers. Mary, we need to know what's in these, Jake said, trembling slightly, not just with fear, but with an exhilarating thrill. This could change everything. They exchanged glances, hearts pounding in unison, as each letter detailed anguish, love, and betrayal. There was a wealth of truth lingering just beneath the surface, waiting to come to light, but not without its consequences. What if this leads us to something we can't handle? Mary asked, her voice trembling. What if it changes the way we see everything? Or worse? Jake took a deep breath, bracing against the weight of their family's legacy. We have to face it, no matter what it reveals. We have to know the truth. Determined, they prepared to delve deeper into the mystery that their mother had kept hidden, unsure of the storm they were truly inviting into their lives. Could uncovering their mother's concealed past bring them closer or drive them apart? And what shadows from Uncle Liam's story still lingered, threatening to engulf them both? As Jake and Mary began to read the letters, an electric pulse of realization coursed through them, almost tangible in the air. Each shy whisper of paper held more than just words. It carried the weight of a family's secrets, itching to break free after years of suppression. A storm of emotion raged within them, mixing fear with an insatiable curiosity. This one's dated. Mary pointed to the first letter, her fingers trembling as they skimmed over the faded ink. 1978. It's from Uncle Liam. Why was he writing to Mom? Jake leaned closer, his heart racing. Whatever it is, it must have been important. Mary unfolded the letter carefully, as if handling a fragile artifact. It talks about a family rift, something about betrayal over a piece of land? Maybe that's what the deed is tied to, Jake conjectured. A fight over ownership? But why would that matter now? As they steeped deeper into the letters, snippets of a turbulent past emerged, heartbreaking confessions, accusations, regret. Jake's stomach churned as he read sentences that dredged up the kind of family drama he never knew existed. Each revelation felt like another layer peeling away from their mother's carefully structured life. They were angry, really angry, Mary whispered, a sense of dread creeping into her voice. What if our mother was involved in this fight? What if it's more than just a rift? For a moment, silence enveloped them. The only sound was the relentless patter of rain against the basement window, the world outside dark and tumultuous, just like the secrets they were unearthing. "Do you think it's still over the land?" Jake asked, his voice slow, edged with disbelief. "Or maybe something more? Something that put Uncle Liam away? And what if—" Abruptly he stopped, a stark realization hitting him. What if it has to do with why Mom never talked about him? Mary bit her lip, her brow furrowed in concentration. If she was protecting us, then there's still so much more to unravel. Flipping through the letters, Jake caught sight of another envelope, this one slightly thicker. "Wait, what's this?" he asked, pulling it from the pile. It wasn't sealed, but felt stuffed with something. Inside, they found a last letter, written in a shaky hand, almost desperate. "This one feels different," Jake said, as they took turns reading it aloud. "It talks about a legacy, and a choice that would change everything." Mary's breath caught in her throat. "Jake, he's talking about us, about carrying the family name, the burden, like something was passed down." As the words hung in the air, a flicker of fear crept into Jake's chest. What if we're not just uncovering our family's history? What if our decisions are intertwined with Uncle Liam's fate? "Then we need to be careful," Mary replied, visibly shaken. "We can't ignore whatever this is. It feels like we're standing on a tipping point." A loud crack of thunder reverberated through the basement, as if punctuating their thoughts. The shadows flickered around them, twisting and curling in ways that made Jake's skin crawl. "Think about it, Mary," he insisted, his voice rising with anxiety. "If this land is significant, and it ties back to that feud, it could change everything we know about Mom." They both leaned closer over the letters, the chill of the impending storm seeping into their bones. In that moment, they were on the brink of something monumental. The ghosts of the past loomed like specters, daring them to take the plunge into a truth that could shatter or strengthen their family bond. "Do you think we can handle it?" Mary asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Jake breathed out, the uncertainty pushing against the walls of his consciousness. "But we have to find out." And with that, they opened the next letter, which bore the weight of more than just ink on paper. Secrets, lies, and revelations that could very well unleash a storm darker than the one brewing outside. What truths would the next letter reveal? And would they be ready to confront the shadows cast by their family's legacy? The next letter unfolded between them, an unyielding weight that pressed down on Jake's heart. The scent of aged paper mixed with the musty air of the basement, creating an atmosphere that felt sacred and heavy with expectation. "Okay, here we go," Jake whispered, his fingers brushing against the fragile parchment. Mary nodded, eyes wide, her breath steadying as they began to read. The words spilled forth, laden with tension and emotion. Uncle Liam spoke in the letter about heavy decisions, names etched in anger and regret. It became painfully clear this was no simple family feud. It was a heartbreak wrapped in a legacy, a decision that threatened to tear apart their lineage forever. He mentions wanting to do what was best for our family, but it isn't clear what that is, Mary said, her voice trembling as she parsed the sentences. There's something about the land again, and how it could either bind them or break them. I don't understand, Jake muttered, irritation creeping in. If it's so important, why not just tell the truth? Why hide everything in letters? As they continued through the densely packed ink, Jake caught a certain phrase that made him stop. Liam writes about a choice, a decision that could either preserve the family name or destroy it. Mary looked at him, her brow furrowed. Jake, do you think Mom knew? Is this why she refused to talk about him, to confront any of this? Jake's mind raced, piecing together memories of family dinners, the way their mother always changed the subject whenever Uncle Liam's name came up. Maybe she was trying to protect us, to shield us from whatever that choice was. A chill slid down Jake's spine, the realization growing like a dark vine around his heart. What if this choice involved us? What if we have a say in something that could alter everything? Mary squeezed her eyes shut, grasping the notion that they might be entwined in this crumbling history. What if our actions could repeat the mistakes of the past? Just then, a violent crack of thunder echoed through the basement, making both of them jump. The lights flickered. For a moment, the room seemed alive, the shadows dancing wildly, reflecting their confusion and growing dread. We can't just sit here, Jake said, his voice louder than he intended, the urgency creeping in. If Uncle Liam meant for us to understand this, then we need to act. We can't allow the same rift to split us apart. Mary nodded, determination igniting in her eyes. But how do we untangle this legacy? How do we choose differently? They exchanged a look, an unspoken understanding igniting between them. They were in this together, bound by blood and a shared heritage they scarcely understood, yet felt deeply within their bones. Jake took a breath, filling his lungs with the musty air. Let's keep reading. We need to know everything. What happens next might be crucial. As they plunged back into the letters, a sense of urgency clung to each word like a dark shadow. With every turning page, they felt the weight of not just their family's past, but their future pressing down on them. What if the choices they made next held the power to rewrite their story? Would they unlock secrets that could stitch their family back together or shatter it entirely? The storm outside raged, mirroring the storm inside as they braced themselves to confront the heart of their family's legacy. Would they have the courage to navigate the tumultuous waters ahead? Sitting on the basement floor, surrounded by their family's past, Jake and Mary felt a spark ignite within them, fueled by urgency and determination. Each letter they had read revealed hidden truths, shadowy betrayals, and choices that echoed through generations. Now they could feel the weight of those choices pressing on their shoulders, almost urging them to act. "Jack, look at this," Mary gasped, interrupting the silence as she unfolded yet another letter. Her voice quivered with a mix of excitement and apprehension. This one talks about how Uncle Liam made a choice that changed everything. He had the chance to reconcile, but he chose pride instead. Jake leaned closer, trying to wrap his mind around the implications. So it really could be about us? He had the opportunity to mend things, but... Mary's eyes brimmed with tears as she continued. And that could mean we have the chance to do things differently, to choose love over resentment. We can't let history repeat itself. The storm outside surged, wind howling like the ghosts of their family's past. It was a reminder of the urgency they felt, not just to uncover history, but to seize the moment and shape their own narrative. "Let's commit to this. We have to reach out and make amends while we still can," Jake said. "We won't wait for a catalyst like Uncle Liam did. We can step up now." Mary nodded vigorously, her spirit catching fire with hope. "We can get the neighbors involved. They've been by our side through everything. They're part of our community. They will help us. Their hearts raced with anticipation. What if they rallied their friends and family, turned this progressive notion into a local movement? Let's host a meeting, Jake proposed, the idea flowing now. Remind everyone of what this neighborhood used to mean, what family really is. As they exited the musty basement, the flickering lights settled to a steady glow, as if the house had approved of their plans. They emerged into the storm outside, raindrops falling hard but feeling less heavy now, like a cleansing of old burdens. In the days following, communicated plans turned into a community gathering. Neighbors trickled in, laughter mingling with the scent of good food wafting from the kitchen. The living room, once a place of sorrow, transformed into a melting pot of collective strength and shared stories. Together, we can hold on to what matters, Jake spoke to an attentive crowd. Let's not just rebuild homes, let's rebuild our connections. The stories we tell matter, they shape our future. The room buzzed with enthusiasm. Mary watched the hearts around her swell with the community's love, each face a canvas of hope, a reflection of family bonds reaffirmed. Could this really work, she thought? But negativity felt distant now, washed away by camaraderie. As people shared memories and dreams that revived the spirit of the neighborhood, Jake caught Mary's eye and they smiled, the quiet understanding lighting up the room. They were not just siblings now, but comrades, bond in revitalizing a legacy previously tangled in silence. Then, a familiar face waded through the crowd, old neighbor Betty, her warm smile brighter than the light streaming through the window. "You both have breathed life back into this place," she said warmly, causing tears to prick at the corners of Mary's eyes. "You've reminded us all where we came from." As Mary embraced her, she realized the importance of their journey, transforming struggles into strength. It was about family, making choices, and choosing to love fiercely. When the meeting concluded, Jake and Mary stood on the porch, watching the last remnants of the storm fade as the horizon turned warm with the light of a new day. "This is just the beginning," Jake said, with renewed conviction, hope blooming in his chest. "We've planted the seeds. What we do next is our choice." "Together," Mary replied, heart swelling with possibility. And so they stood, no longer entrapped in their family's shadows, but encapsulated in the warmth of community and the promise of a shared future built on love. The transformation had indeed begun, through courage and connection, bringing family closer, and proving that the past does not overshadow hope. As the door to the future creaked open slowly, Jake and Mary prepared to embrace it, united in purpose, ready to turn new pages in their lives. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for heartfelt stories like this. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every click matters. Comment below your reactions to this ending. How did this story inspire you? And don't wait, not even one more second, to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let's spread hope.